Welcome to Lair Designs. I'm Glenn Lair, and my challenge today is to be able to recut this stone coming from GRS Laboratories, a 50.96 carat oval. And right now it's completely natural, which means there's been no heat. So it's kind of sleepy. There's a lot of silk inside the stone, which makes the return of the light a little on the more muted side. So what I'm going to be able to do once Lawrence Hahn arrives, he's the head of the GRS Laboratories in New York. He will be hand carrying this stone from New York, delivering it here for me to begin the work. But my challenge is going to be able to change the angles on the pavilion in such a way that I'm able to bring light from all the way around the girdle all the way down to the culet. At the moment, the only light return we see is around the outer edge of the girdle, which is the upper edge of the stone. So it's kind of sleepy and dark. So my challenge is going to be able to change the angles of the pavilion, the current angles of the pavilion, and map it out in such a way that I'm able to bring the light from the girdle all the way to the pavilion. So by mapping it, I'm going to currently measure each angle, which we'll show you in a little bit when we go to the cutting wheel, and determine what the existing angles are for me to then recalculate the optimal angles without losing a whole lot of weight. Right now we're at 50.96. 50 carats, 96 points. My goal is going to be to stay above 40 carats. Shouldn't be a problem. But you never know until you've actually mapped the stone out. But once I've mapped it, then I can recalculate those angles that I'm going to cut the pavilion in such a way so there's absolute brilliance all the way from the girdle down to the culet point of the stone. Hi, Lawrence. Welcome to California.
Thank you.
Had a good flight from New York?
Easy.
Well, come on in. Welcome to Lair Designs. Well, Lawrence, welcome to my workshop studio. This is where all the magic happens here at Lair Designs, where I've cut many of the stones for Dr. Peretti. I'm super excited about working on this big 50 carat Madagascan sapphire.
I'm excited to see what you're going to make of it. I've seen quite a few stones that you've cut for us, big stones, cashmere sapphires, budgetites. Looking forward to the outcome of this one.
It'll be great.
Excellent. So, do you want to see the stone?
Yes, I can't wait. Wow, this is amazing. What a huge blue sapphire. It's got excellent color, but the return of light isn't quite there yet. So we're definitely going to try to bring in more light. Since it's so silky, my first inclination is maybe do fewer facets on the pavilion. Therefore, you get more return of light per facet. I think the biggest challenge again is how silky I've seen this stone, and the trick is then to increase the facet size of each.
Yeah, it's like clouds of pinpoints with lots of zircons in it. So
yes.
It's the zircons are pretty reflective, but so far they haven't been too noticeable through or from the top view. Probably that's one of the reasons they also gave a double crown.
Okay, just split it.
Yeah, to make it less less obvious, but
hopefully you don't bring more of those out, is what you're saying.
Hopefully, yeah, but I doubt by touching the bottom that will be the problem.
Yeah, so I think it's mostly the open window from the crown where you would notice that,
yeah.
Right? Okay. Well, it's exciting. This is a major stone. I'm honored to be able to work on such a magnificent large sapphire like this. As I said, in my whole career of cutting big sapphires, this is the only other sapphire over 50 carats I've ever cut. So.
And I flew from New York here just to be here and watch you do it. The stone came from Switzerland by a valuable cargo, sent to our laboratory. I booked the flight, came here, hand carried it, just arrived this morning, drove down to see you just for this. So
here we are.
Let's do this.
Okay, what a journey it's going to be over the next couple days, huh?
Awesome.
Great. The main focus today and tomorrow will be recutting the Madagascan 50.96 carat. But Lawrence brought with him, aside from that, quite a few other stones, one being a 12 plus carat cashmere sapphire crystal, which I'll be able to carve and cut because it's an unusual shape. Along with that is about a dozen hot pink spinels that need to be recut. And the most important thing, which is peridiotes that are found within phenakite, which is a unique mineral, and it was named after Dr. Adolf Peretti. Very rare to have a mineral named after yourself, so these are actually named after Dr. Adolf Peretti, and I'll have an opportunity to be able to recut these, or cut them, I should say, in their natural state into cut stones. Well, here's the Kashmir sapphire. It's extremely rare, considered one of the most coveted locations in the world. This is a very difficult stone in that it's quite flat, but the color is absolutely perfect. We're going to be focusing on this at another time, but I wanted to introduce this Kashmir sapphire crystal, in which I will be recutting it into some form, probably a fancy shape with some carving. But really our focus right now is going to be on the big Madagascan sapphire, which is what I'm going to be doing now. Now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be immersing it in the oil, and what the oil does is it takes away the reflections of the facets and allows me to see the color and the color zoning in sapphire. One of the things about cutting sapphires that's super critical, it's not necessarily its hardness that makes it difficult, but actually locating the color zones and positioning the facets in such a way that they capture the best color zone in the stone that bounces the color around on the inner body of the stone. And to do that, by immersing it in oil here, then I'm able to see where the color zone is, so I'm aware of it as I'm recutting the stone. Okay, so as I drop it in the oil, I'm shining the light on it, but what I can see is this stone really doesn't have any notable color zones. It's pretty even throughout the whole stone. That's going to make it easy for the recutting. I don't have to necessarily orientate the stone in such a way that I have to bring up the color zone, because this is one of those rare sapphires in which the whole stone is actually completely even in color. Of course, it's dichroic, so there's a green zone there, but I'm not too worried about it because the angle we're cutting it, the table's already orientated at the direct ideal color zone right there. So the first thing of doing it in the oil like this, I'm going to try to flip it over here, is try to see if there's any real color zoning. And as I can see as I turn it, it's so even, this is not going to be an issue for me as far as the orientation. Now it's going to be a matter of picking the optimal angle for the pavilion facets as they go from the girdle to the pavilion, culet, I should say. Okay. And the other thing that I'm looking for now is if there's any distinctive inclusions in here. There's a few feathers, like right on this upper edge where the light is shining through. There's a feather in the stone, and there's another feather coming around right there that's on this end of the stone. So there's only two feathers, and they're really right on the outer edge of the girdle area. But also the little white dots or spots that you see there are the zircon crystals floating on the inside of the stone, along with some zoning that I can see here on this side. I'm not sure the camera can pick it up, but there it would be right there if I'm facing it forward to you. But other than that, this stone is super clean. It's not going to run into be too much of a problem. Plus, where the inclusions are, especially these feathers right here on this side and coming around on just the opposite side, there's a little lighter feather. They're way up in the girdle area, so the crown's pretty much going to hide that, which means the crown angles always push light farther away as it steepens. So those are not it, but really the bulk of the stone, which is up by the culet area, which is the tip of the bottom of the pavilion, is where all the light is, and in that area the stone is super clean. So we're not too worried about kicking much of the inclusions around in the stone, which often can multiply based on the reflections. I don't see that being an issue with this stone at all. Okay, we're going to start off this morning by dopping the stone. Dopping means you're putting it on the actual dop. You're going to hold this on the dop here. So I attach it with a very hard wax. This wax is formulated just for sapphire, so it can take high heat, because when you're working sapphire, on a wheel like this where there's no water or coolant, you're just using oil and diamond, it will generate a certain amount of heat which could shift the diamond's place, or shift the stone in place, which you don't want to have to do. So you want to make sure it really is on firm. So I'm going to start by doing dopping here. So I'll heat up my lamp. This will get kind of hot on my hands. I might want to get another tool here like this. Okay, get it so I can get it really hot, because sapphire corundums can take a fair amount of heat, so I'm not too worried about it. Not like other gemstones like opals and quartzes where they can't take that kind of heat. So you have to be very careful not to overheat the stone when you're dopping it, because you could crack it. But in corundum, it can take tremendous heat all the way up to 1900 degrees Celsius, so without worrying about it. So corundum can take a fair amount of heat, which is how we're going to really warm this up. So I want to get that nice and hot, and then I'm going to start melting the wax in place here. Okay, now I'm going to heat the stone up to kind of so that the temperature difference between the stone and the dop wax is pretty high. Plus I'm going to orientate it. I've got a black mark right here that tells me when I put it into my quill that holds the stone, it'll set it right at the 96 approximately, and then I can fine tune it. So right now I'm holding the stone, making sure I can feel the heat, which I can. And then I'm going to heat the wax up so that they bind, and then okay, when you have a wavy girdle like this, it's hard to get it perfectly balanced, which means when they originally cut it, this outer edge here actually has a little bit of a wave to it, and they do that to kind of cheat the stone. So I'm going to have to kind of compensate. It's really hot right now, which is good because it's sticking to the stone, but I want to be sure I have it somewhat balanced here, which means I have to tilt the stone to where I'm happy with what I see here, because the more perpendicular to the dop, the better I'm going to be able to read my angles. So I'm going to have to live with that balance at the moment. There we go. That looks better. Okay. Right now what I'm doing is I'm mapping the stone by rotation. And each one of those rotational spots is going to tell me the degree that the girdle facet, these very lowest ones, are set at. And because this stone is all over the map, it's going to take a while for me to locate where I'm at. So I'm at 96 and then 94. Then I'm going to try 2 clicks and see what happens here, and see if I'm close to the next stone. Yeah, see, this is okay. I'm marking the facet column at the upper end where the culet is, and I have it positioned at that degree, hopefully, so that when I touch it to the wheel, I'm going to rub it against the wheel to see if it removes the black mark where I want it to be and have it be exactly where I want it. Okay, so we've basically found the column and the angles on this side, which is, as you can see, it's much steeper and bulkier in the stone right here. So I'm going to be pushing this over, but right now I'm working on the real shallow side, which doesn't have as much material, and I'm trying to push the lower angle down, which I did by a whole degree, so that I could get as much as I can going up to the tip, up to where we're going to start here, so that when I push the other side over, I'm going to be moving the stone over. So it's a balancing act. So like right now we have something like this, and I'm trying to do something like that. So I'm trying to balance one side to the other to try to get more light into the stone, and especially in the upper part of the stone, which was lacking light. There was plenty of light down here, but no light in the middle, which is where it's super critical. So right now, I've just touched off here. I pushed it back by a half a degree, and I'm giving myself a little cheat space, so that's what I'm doing right now, is a half a degree on here, like that.
Stand high. Okay, you're inspecting it.
Okay.
Inspecting, and turn the light right there. Okay, and hold it right there, don't move it. Hold on, don't move it.
Okay.
Hold on, don't move it. Trying to lock in focus, I'm super tight on it. Alright, give it a little white, but try not to move the stone. There we go. A couple of those, give me a couple of those. Alright. Thank you, good.
Okay, I squeezed out 58.5. So I squeezed another 2 degrees on the lower end. So then I'm going to go 5 degrees in. So .5 minus 5 degrees equals 53.5. So now I'm going up one more column. I mean, it'll come out nice, but it's, you know, exactly. But I want to make sure Jason gets all the B footage, because this is going to be what it's going to be like now, Jason, for the next several hours. So if you get enough B-roll here, me doing this, checking the stone, maybe moving one more angle up, then I think we're going to be able to.
So, Glenn, I think the best thing is you take your time, 2-3 days, whatever, however long you need, and organize the pickup for it.
All right. It's tough because I'm in so close, and it's going in and out of focus because I'm so tight that as you bring it
Okay, so
towards
I
you,
can go slow. Do you want to draw away now?
Yep. Hang on. And of course, you don't get the same effect if you just let the wheel pass it, do you? You have to move it, don't you?
You don't want to stay in one place because you groove the stone.
Yeah.
So I'll make a slower move. But if you back away, you can get the full picture now, right? And I'm barely touching the stone to the wheel. You can hear it, you know? But I'm letting it do its thing.
I wonder if this... And right there, let me get a... Okay, stand by right there. You got a nice light hit, don't move it.
Yeah.
Okay, don't move the stone, but give it a couple little wipes. Oh, and okay, go ahead. I'm gonna pull out.
Okay, I can go back down to the wheel.
Yep.
Okay, lifting,
Okay, go ahead.
checking.
Okay,
Good.
and hold it right there. I got your face and the stone.
Okay, and I'm where I want to be right now.
Cool. So maybe just say a quick something about that.
Okay, so what I've done now is I've pushed the very bottom facet down by 3 or 4 degrees, and then I'm on the second row, which is from the from the girdle up, and that second row is now set at 57 degrees. So I actually barely cut it at 50. I went at 58, 59. The next one is 50. Oh no, I'm sorry, 52 degrees. So I shifted it by about 5.5 degrees. So that gave me enough of a push putting it in here, so I can, when I get up here, I've got more room to change it. Because the whole idea now that I'm trying to do is, right now it's like this, and I need to get it more bulky on this side, which is going to capture more of the light. Because at the moment, the way this is cut, it's so flat here, you're not getting any light reflection up at the top. So the way to change that is to push these next angles in and steeper, which is what I'm doing now. So from 52 degrees, I'm counting on the next group of facets to be like a 48 degrees, which is only a 4-degree shift. Ideally 5 is ideal, but 4 if I can cheat, because I'm working with the material. So I'm gonna now change the angle from 52 to 48. So now I've made it a little shallower, and I'm gonna come up and see what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make a mark, you know, and that's why I'm using such a fine cutting wheel, so I can really see gently what I'm doing now. So I just touched it off with the wheel. And even then, that was actually too shallow. So I got to see what I did. looking for my black marker. Oh, can you hand me that? Yeah, so I'm running up the column now to get the ideal group of facets. And I might have to back off a little bit, so right now, see what I'm touching. And even actually...
Stay right there, just a second.
Yeah,
That's
actually
a great
the
shot.
48 is too shallow. So I'm gonna come back and push it, which is good. Maybe do a 49.5 degree. The purpose of the black ink is because I'm removing so little material every time I cut a facet. The black ink gives me a quick indicator where the stone is being cut from on the wheel, because I have a very, very fine wheel that is just taking off micro amounts of material, enough for me to see what's going on. That's what the black ink is all about. And then once I'm exactly where I want it, and I've got the angle, the rotation, plus the angle, then I could go forward and cut the stone. So what optimistically we originally had hoped to be able to cut the stone in a 3-day period, which is a good 6 hours a day, because that's about as much as I can take without losing focus and getting tired. On further studying and cutting the initial facets that we've done, I realize there's a lot more to this stone in order for me to take my time. So we really could be doubling, if not tripling my time. But that matters in a stone of this significance. When you're talking over 50 carat stone, you can't afford to lose the weight. Now I could have rushed this stone and cut the whole pavilion all over again at a much faster rate, but I might have lost so much weight that I would have diminished the value of the stone. So the challenge always when I'm working on a stone of this significance is that I'd rather take my time and cut very little as I go, which ends up reflecting saving a lot of weight, which equates to a lot of, dollar per carat at the end of the day. So the whole trick right now is, now that I'm into the stone, I realize I have a lot more work ahead of me, that I want to take my time and proceed very cautiously and be able to cut the stone very gradually, maintaining the weight retention as much as I can, and able to pull off a stone that's going to significantly look different when we're done. So we're on the final stages of polishing this stone on the pavilion side. One of the things I noticed when I originally got the stone and started polishing at my level, which I'm polishing at 100,000 grit, which is super high professional polish, I noticed that all the other facets, which is traditionally they cut at 12,000 grit, which is generally, to the eye, it looks polished, but when you're looking under magnification, there is some streakiness and also scratchiness. So I've gone over all the facets up to 100,000. What we've done now, though, is I've started by pushing in the sides right here, and I've done those, I've cut those sides, and now I'm completing the ends. And the whole thing about it, this stone has a lot of silk in it. What we say silk, we mean rutilated or rutile embedded in the sapphire, which makes a stone a little sleepier. But what we like to do is, one of the things you should be aware of when you're cutting a stone that's quite silky is the larger the facets, the better brilliance it is. If it's a crystal stone that's completely clean and what we call crystal clear, then lots of little facets work better. But on a stone like this, as you've noticed as we spin it around, there's a lot of very large facets, and though they're not symmetrical, because you don't really want to cut a stone to symmetry like this, you'd be losing too much weight. I'm cutting it for maximum weight retention, but I've increased the size of many of the facets in order to be able to return light to its brilliance. So later on, when we pull the stone off the top, we're going to see a remarkable difference from what it originally looked like when it wasn't cut for its brilliance to just by adding a little bit of larger facets and cutting it more within the critical refractive indexes of the stone, we should get a lot more return of light, and I'm guessing a lot more royal blue color than before, which was quite a darkish blue in the original stone.
And cut. Okay, I'm going to push in and do the thing with your finger. Cut.
So here we are looking at the shape of both sides. This side here was always more shallow, and it was pushing the culet, which is the very tip of the stone, farther over. So what I've done is I've come from the bottom down here and taken some of the steepness that was down here and pushed these angles, which allowed me to get a steeper angle up in here. And I've done it just this other side, on the opposite side where there's a greater curve and more of an ideal roll to it, it was even steeper. So I had a lot of material that I could then come and push this angle over a bit to realign the culet that you see. So that was what I started out with. It was both sides, because that's where the majority of the light is going to be returned. But then, now that I've moved on and I'm happy with what I've gotten, but I also want to make a comment here as we come in close, you're going to see the size of these facets are quite large. And that was done intentionally, because on a stone that is silky like this, that we say has kind of a hazy look when you look into the stone, the bigger the facets, the more brilliance you'll get back. If you made a bunch of little small facets, it wouldn't have returned the light at the same magnitude. So in fact, in some places where there were smaller facets, I've actually lost one of the columns going up and increased one of the other columns in diameter to make up the difference. So I'm having some really large flat facets going up like that. So, and also note that a stone of this magnitude, when you're talking about a stone over 40 carats, 40 to 50 carats, that's extremely rare, you really aren't going about the symmetry. You're not doing like this ideal precision cut, perfect stone. You have to kind of work with the stone to maintain the weight. It's all about the weight. So I'm maintaining the weight by working with what I have, not trying to make it perfectly symmetrical. Okay, so I'm really working with the size of the facets, not so much the symmetry, because when you're talking about a stone over 40 carats to 50 carats, it's extremely rare, and weight is everything. You want to retain as much weight as you can when you're recutting a stone like this. So I'm working with the existing facets, but I'm making them larger, because whenever you have a silky stone like this, the larger the facets, the better return of light. So I've done that going all the way around from the sides, which is here, to the ends, which is here. So again, I'm working with all the materials down by the culet, down by the girdle, but it gives me material to push forward to get into the refractive index. So we're actually going to have brilliance by the culet that wasn't there in the original stone. So here, as we're lighting up the stone, you can kind of start to see when I spoke about how it has silk in it. Well, this is rutile that's embedded in the stone, and it gives it kind of a little bit of a cloudy appearance that if you did a bunch of very small facets, you would not get the same return of light. So as I'm spinning it, you can see the size of the facets going up in each column are quite large, and that was done intentionally in order to have maximum light return. So as I'm spinning it, you can kind of see the silky haze, kind of milkiness. As a matter of fact, if there was more silk in it, it would actually be what we would consider a star sapphire. But most sapphires don't have enough silk rutile in it to create a star, and it's more common like this when you have it. It's also the sign when you see a stone like this with the hazy milk, you know right away that it's not been heat treated. Because once you heat treat a stone with this much rutile, it will actually go darker and clearer. But obviously, the most desirable stone is unheat treated. And I think we're going to get a tremendous return of light when I finish polishing the stone. And we're going to see it. It should be really gone from a very dark blue originally, from the original cut, to now really royal, rich, kind of royal blue color. Well, we're almost there. We're almost done. I have one last column, 4 facets left to take it to that 100,000 polish, and then we're going to actually see the results. We're going to see how much more brighter the stone should be, and also what the weight retention, how little weight I hopefully lost, where I'm able to stay right around 49 carats, which would have meant that I would lose no more than a carat 0.9, which is not much when you think about hopefully the return of the light. So now we're on the final stages of 4 facets where we're going to polish it. All the other facets I've done are ready at 100,000, these last 4 facets. So we're on the final stretch here with only 4 facets left on this last column. Once these are polished, we are home free with the final stone, and it'll be ready to take off the dock. Okay, this facet's almost done. I've just got a little bit more. As I mentioned previously, I'm polishing it at 100,000. This is really not traditionally commercial polish. You would consider this more at the higher level of like an expert, master, amateur, which would polish a stone at this high. So it takes longer, but the end result is it's super high polish with no little small scratches that you would get at the lower grits that most commercial stones are cut at. Again, with a stone of this magnitude, of this value, it's worth taking this much more time getting a polish of superior, especially as we mentioned the silkiness of the stone. The return of the light is going to be so much higher, it's going to really should make a remarkably big difference in the end result coming through the crown of the stone. We're really close on this one facet. You know, we talk about the bigger the facet, the longer it takes to get a polish. So a lot of these facets on the pavilion are the size of a traditional crown table, which obviously would take a long time. So you can imagine how much time it takes to get all these larger facets to get a polish. It's like doing a couple dozen tables on smaller 2-3 carat size sapphires. All right, that one's done. Now on to the next. We have 1, 2, 3 smaller facets that should go fairly quick. So again, because this isn't cut as perfectly symmetrical, I'm taking black marking ink here, and I'm actually marking the next facet to see where the wheel's touching it, because every one of these facets, I have to adjust it. Traditionally, when you cut a very symmetrical stone, once you have it lined up and you've cut it symmetrically, you can keep going, because when you lay it back down to the wheel, it's going to hit it right where you want. Well, that's not the case with this. A big part of the time right now is marking each one of these facets. Even though it's going up one column, this column is wavy, so I have to mark where I'm at. I might even turn the wheel off, mark it with black ink. I'm now going to change the angle that I have set here, which is I'm now going to the next angle steeper or shallower, which is now pulling it down closer into what we call the optimal critical angles. And then I lay it down to the wheel, bring it up, and then touch it down to where it's hitting, just like that. And then I have to see where it's touching. And I can see it where it's touching to make adjustments. Looks like it's there, but I might have to do another adjustment or two. As I can see, I run it for a few seconds on the wheel, and I can see how it's removing the scratch pattern to see if I'm dead on or not. And it looks like I'm right where I need to be to finish this facet. So fortunately, I can go right down to this stone now, right to this facet. where we want to be. Now I'm just going to do the final faceting. Add a little bit more diamond to the wheel. Perfect. Now on to the next two final. 30. Setting my angle. Then I might again do my black ink technique, which shows me where the wheel's actually touching the facet. These next two facets are going to go quite quick, so I want to just slightly touch off. See where the wheel's hitting it. It looks pretty close. Maybe just a little bit more shallower. You can almost hear it, how when a facet's dead on flat to the wheel, it almost goes quieter on you. I don't know if you could pick up that sound, but I can hear it and I listen. It's not about just what I can see, but also what I hear as the stone is touching the wheel, if I'm right where I need to be. Especially when I'm in that sweet spot that you hear right now. Okay, we're at the very final facet. This is the last facet. We're almost to the finish line, just under the wire, as they say. All right, the moment we've been waiting for. After many hours, several dozen hours of refaceting and repolishing the stone, we're ready to remove it off the dop and take it to the scale to see what kind of weight we have and also what the brilliance is. Okay, we're not going to really be able to see the stone because there's still dop wax on it. It's still quite hot from the heat, though the sapphire can take this kind of heat. Other gemstones not. So there's still dop on here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop it in acetone, which is in my little jar. I'm going to wait for it to cool down just a little bit and then put it in the acetone, and then we'll put it in the ultrasonic, which will eat away the last of the wax. This is a very high temperature sapphire wax, so it takes a lot of heat to dop a stone because generally you generate a lot of heat when you're polishing a sapphire, and you don't want to have that stone shift on the dop while you're polishing it. That would be a disaster, so to speak, because then you're chasing the facets moving. So you really want that wax to be super hard, which is what this is. This is very specially formulated hard sapphire wax. So I'm getting down. It's still quite warm. I don't want to stick it in the liquid until it comes down a little cooler to the touch. As you can see, I'm holding it with my fingertips. You can still see the wax on it, but it's still quite hot. So I'm going to wait for it to cool just a little bit. And then I'm going to put it in the acetone. We'll take it to the ultrasonic, which will clean the last bits. And then we get to see the fruits of our effort here. So once I've taken the wax off and put it in the acetone and the ultrasonic, then we'll take another look at it. Well, we finalized the stage. We started out with a 50.96 carat sapphire that was pretty lifeless. It was dark blackish blue, not much brilliance at all in the culet. A little bit of life around the crown, but it was cut for weight, not for beauty. Now that I have finished it after several hours, the final weight off the scale is 49.57 carats.
Oh my
That means
God.
we've only lost 1.39 carats, but we've been able to pull together an amazing royal blue stone here. So now you can see the brilliance. It's not just in the crown any longer, but it's also all the way to the culet, which is the final point at the back of the pavilion. That's one of the things that happened. But two, because the stone is so silky, I enlarged some of the facets to be larger, and those facets, whenever you have a silky stone, gives off more light. And so the couple things with larger facets, plus I took the polish to 100,000 diamond polish. That 100,000 changes the brilliance of the stone, where you really can kind of see it as I wave the light in front of it right now. You can kind of see the life is coming back into a really deep royal blue. There's not blackish blue, but also changing the angles picked up more of the royal blue zone in the stone. So I've actually increased the color more towards the desirable blue and away from the greenish blue that was there prior and the blackish blue. But several things have happened. The polish has increased, the facet size have increased, and also the angles increased it. So by only losing 1.39 carats, we've taken a stone that was big but not very attractive into a beautiful gemstone. So the minor amount of weight that we lost in over this 50 carat stone well has exceeded it by the beauty that we've brought into the stone. I wanted to wipe. There it is. Here he is. Hey, there you are. Can you hear me?
To hear you.
Okay, here we are. We're all set to go. Okay, well, here I'm going to grab the sapphire right now. It's all done. It is spectacular at 49.57 carats.
Oh, wow.
It's royal colored now.
Is it?
Yeah, it's
A
really
little bit get more away from the screen, otherwise it's not sharp. I mean, more
Like
from
that?
the camera away. A little bit more away. A little bit more away. Okay, now it's sharp. Okay.
I don't know if you have your pen light here. Let me have that pen light right there. I'll see if I can light it up for you, because you remember how it had no life at all before? Now it's full of. See if I can do this.
Yeah.
Now it's really royal. Hold on.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
Look at the color
So
on
it's
that.
not such a bad sapphire after all.
Oh no, it's beautiful. I mean, I lost. What I did was I lost a couple rows or columns, you know, going up this way. So the columns on the bottom of the stone, I lost a few columns because I wanted the facets to be bigger. Because on a silky stone, the bigger the facets, the more life you're going to get through a silky stone. On a crystal, where it's super clear, then smaller facets work. So there are one or two really small kind of columns that they have facet in it. I kind of took them over and added it and made it one big column. So I don't know if you can see it, but when you get the stone, you'll see the columns are nice and wide. So each facet is almost is like a big table, you know, and that's what's producing the light. I'm in darkened light right now, but I'll see if I can light it up better for you here.
Oh yeah, there comes the baby, huh?
Yeah, look at it. It's really royal color now, and it's brilliant all the way to the culet.
Oh, so.
Yeah, before it was dead in the center of the stone, and there was only life around the crown. You know, now we have life. Now we have
Give you a
life.
secret.
What's that?
I give you a little secret.
Yeah. What's the secret?
I stole the stone from Cleopatra.
Oh God. I don't know. You want that on the film? That's anyways. You can edit whatever you want on your end. So anyways, yeah, not bad. From what was it? I was 50 point. 49.94 carats, and we're now at 49.57 carats. So we barely lost a carat 40, but now you have a lively stone, much more lively. I didn't touch the crown at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go back and polish the whole crown, not touch, you know, you're not going to lose any weight for me to polish it because, you know, overseas they polish at 14,000 diamond. Well, I took this up to 100,000 diamond, and the difference is like night and day. So I ended up touching all the facets, even the columns that I didn't touch on the stone, you know, to recut them. I still went back and hit them at 100,000 just to polish them on the pavilion, but I haven't done anything to the crown. I could, I don't know if it's necessary, I have to look up closer, and you wouldn't lose anything, at the most maybe 1/100th of a carat. But I don't think it needs it. It looks great. I looked at the table, and the table's in great shape. So we don't need to, I mean, obviously, you know, how, as you say, every 100th of a carat is thousands of dollars, right? So it doesn't make sense to keep cutting it, you know? And I think you haven't lost anything. You've actually gained something. You've got a more lively, very beautiful royal blue stone when you get it. And this is, I'm looking at it under dark light here in my studio, and it's lively.
Yeah.
So we have
the
some. Go ahead.
The secret of buying a stone is look at it under the table, and if it still shows color, then you know it's resistance against light changes in different setting in different parts of the world where there is less light, like in New York, is West Bangkok.
Well, yeah, if you're buying it in Sri Lanka, you definitely want to buy it under the table because the intensity of the light is not as high as the intensity would be in Sri Lanka or even parts of Africa. So for sure, when I've gone to Sri Lanka, I always put it under the table to see how lively it is, because looking at it under Sri Lankan light, you know, which is so close to the equator, you're not going to be able to make the right judgment.
And the polish is like, as a comparison, is if you have an old mirror, and the old mirror has some moist on it, wasn't cleaned with proper liquids for a long time, and then you put the torch on it, the light will not reflect the same as if the mirror is completely reflective and new and of very high reflective quality. That means the facets that you polished on the stone with high, very, very, very small grained diamonds gives you a much more reflective mirror.
Right, which puts more life into the stone.
Yeah, so the light that comes back from the back of the stone in total reflection, you would add, with a very high polish, you would add like 3 to 5% more reflectivity, is it?
Yeah, that's why I started out at 50,000, which I normally do for most stones, and I just wasn't happy with the 50,000. So then I pushed it to 100,000, and immediately they were mirror polished with no little surface abrasions, you know. And I've seen what they've done in Sri Lanka, and I've seen what they've done in my factory in Jaipur, and the highest diamond they do is 14,000, because at the naked eye it looks polished, but under magnification immediately you see the scratches. You've probably seen it under the microscope. So here it's super polished. That's why I wonder, I mean, whether or not it's necessary for me to polish the table at all, if you want even more life, or just leave it the way it is, because the pavilion is really highly polished.
That's an expert decision, but in general, applying more sophisticated technologies and so on wouldn't hurt the stone anyways.
No.
So as you have it with you right now, if you completely polish, I think that makes sense, right?
Right, because the polish between the pavilion of what I've done and the crown are two different finishes. You couldn't see it with the naked eye, but you will see it under the microscope when you get it, and under my magnification, which I have at my faceting bench, which is about 7 power. It's like what doctors use, surgeons use. I have that kind of glasses, and I can see it right away. That's what made me want to touch the whole pavilion at a higher polish, because I couldn't just leave one column that I didn't cut. So bottom line is, let's see if I can show it to you on the screen here, and I've taken some good videos of it. So maybe, can you see that? Is it in focus for you?
Yeah.
Okay, so before, this side was way shallower, and it was pushed, the culet was pushed over on this side, and this side was way steeper. So what I've done is I took some of the meat off the very bottom of the shallow side and allowed me to pull up some of the weight. So at the top up here, I was just within the critical angle. I couldn't get all the way to the end. I was afraid to take away too much weight, but I got it to about 34.5, which is at the culate is right at critical angle. But on the other side that's steeper, of course I had a lot more material and I was able to come up, and that I finished off at 37.5, which is like the ideal culate angle. So that's why it's brilliant at the pavilion. There's just the smallest window. And then on the ends, I really pushed the ends in. So the ends now are pretty balanced. One's a little shallower than the other, but up here on the ends, they both come to almost to the top of the culate at 37.5, which is just ideal. And that just threw a little bit more light on the sides. On the ends, I mean. So it's a little bit more balanced stone.
So now the stone is finished.
Well, unless I polish the table, the crown. I don't have to, but if you think it's necessary, then I will go back, and it'll take me a day or so to polish the table and the crowns at 100,000. I won't do any cutting. I'll just lay each facet down and polish it at 100,000, so it matches the 100,000 on the pavilion if you want. I'm not sure it would be necessary, but it would be a choice you would have to tell me. You're not going to lose much, maybe 1/100th of a carat, at the most.
Yeah, but the stone is already with you for a while, and you have applied all your magic hand to it. And I would say we're going to make the crown too.
You're going to do what again?
We are going to polish the crown too.
Okay, got it. I will do that next week. We have a holiday here, but when I come in on next week, I'll start on the crown. So I'll we'll be ready, because what a difference. This stone glows royal now. It's really royal blue, where before it was kind of blackish blue. Now it's royal blue. And also by changing the angles a little bit, it because this stone, when I immersed the stone on one side, let me see if I can find it. On one side it's royal blue, and on the other side it's kind of a greenish blue. Let me see if I can find it. So I avoided bringing in the green zone altogether, and by changing the angles, now you have a completely royal blue. You can see it. It's gorgeous. You see a lot. It's very silky, but when you face it up, the silk is gone, because the larger facets really made a difference, especially on the sides. I increased the width of each facet going up the columns, and over here on one side it was kind of split, and I made it one instead of the two. So that again adds more brilliance on a silky stone. So it's definitely a magical stone now. Now it has beauty. Where before it was just a big stone that was kind of blackish blue, now it's beautiful. So
well, that's nice to hear.
Yes. And we only lost a carat and 20 some odd points or something, like a carat 40. Not bad, huh? That's amazing. Just a little tweaking goes a long way,
Yeah, right.
I didn't play with the symmetry at all, because that would have taken away a lot more weight. So I stuck with their columns that were kind of weird and curvatured and all that, because I didn't want to lose the weight, but I made each facet be within a transition going from like the steepest angle by the girdle so I could pull out as close as I can to the culate within the last critical angle. The last critical angle is 34.5, but I like to shoot for 37.5, because then within the cone of rotation, it'll stay brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Well, congratulations for the maestro.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great. Thank you, Vadi. So we're all set to go. Next will be the cashmere, and on that one end of the cashmere, I wanted to ask you. I don't have it in front of me. It's got that little clear.
It's a tourmaline.
Huh?
It's a tourmaline.
No.
A very small tourmaline in the stone also. Yeah.
The clear area on the side, that's tourmaline.
No. It has the stone has a small tourmaline inclusion.
Oh, okay. I'll have to make sure I
So-
keep that in there, right? But
That would very helpful.
Yeah,
And then
and-
the clear part, yeah.
yeah, so I should leave the clear part. I was going to saw the clear part off to make it really royal blue, but if you want me to leave the clear part, I will and incorporate it into the cutting. You tell me.
Yeah, I think we leave it in.
Okay, so I'll incorporate it into the cut to leave the clear part.
Because that Kashmir sapphire is like the old mine type. It has a lot of these clouds that look like the Himalaya sky and all that. So it's a gemological miracle stone too. So beside the beauty and the money you can get out of it, I rather compromise on that
Okay.
and keep all the gemological wonders inside.
Okay.
Well,
That's what I'll do. I will put it under my microscope and look at it closely to see all the inclusions that are in there and make sure I maintain as much as I can, and then bring some life in it, because the blue color is just beautiful. It's the perfect cashmere blue. Not that blackish blue that I've seen from some cashmeres.
Right.
It's perfect blue.
Right.
So obviously it's not.
The small tourmaline that is there, localize it. I just should have made you a picture where it is, but you will see the little bit greenish inclusion or something.
Okay, well, I'll put it under the microscope and ID it and find it, so I know when I'm cutting the stone I don't lose it.
Yeah, right.
Great.
It will be a little bit too many compromises is not
Well,
good,
it's not going to be like a brilliant cut stone. It's not deep enough. So, there's that one crack on the underside that I'll probably do a negative cut to get rid of that, and then design a couple other negative cuts to bring brilliance. So it'll be kind of a flattish stone with faceting. It kind of has a trillion shape to it, kind of roundish trillion. So I'm going to kind of do kind of a shield trillion. And all around the pavilion will be faceted. And then whatever I do where the flat area is, I'll be able to put in some negative V cuts that will actually create brilliance facing up. And that's the trick. Not much crown, because there's mostly all table, I think, because it's a rather shallow stone. So I won't get much crown out of it, but I want to get as much pavilion as I can out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So that stone had to come to you because you are the expert of making negative cuts. And the negative cuts can save so much treasure and value
Right.
from magnificent rare pieces that normally get wasted because the people have only that classical view and vision of not being inventive in new cuts. This stone is like, it's crying for you. It's crying for
I
your
hear
vision.
it's calling me. It's the siren gemstone calling me. So I think
Yeah,
we're.
when I saw the stone, it made a Glen in my.
Oh, did it? Okay, great.
Thing. It made that's for Glen. That's for Glen because he can make these negative cuts or independent cut at the pavilion side.
Yeah.
And that's the only way you can cut that stone.
Oh, you would lose so much weight. I mean, right now it's over 15 carats. So I'm guessing I could get at least 30 to 40% weight retention.
And it's not the first Kashmir sapphire we made.
No. The other one was a big carving with a little faceted stone next to it. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So that was a nice experience. And now this is the second experience we have on a Kashmir sapphire.
Yeah, right.
But this time it gets into the before it was a curiosity and size
Yeah.
and preservation of a miracle.
Yeah.
And now we are going to work the miracle to become a beauty.
Yeah, we'll make it into something beautiful. And the colors, it's going to be beautiful. I'm going to put a lot of life in it. Where the other one was more, like you said, more sculptural, artistic. This one's going to be more cut for beauty and brilliance.
So we have a contrast.
Yeah, you will.
A
And
contrast of
and while I have, we should talk whether you want me to. Yeah, there's a nice bird in the background, huh? Talking to you, Audie.
right on the top of a roof,
Yeah. How are you feeling? Better, did it?
Yeah, I'm better.
Okay, good. Okay, well, I don't know. Do you want us to do any filming on the cashmere, or just go ahead and cut it?
So yeah, I think filming would be okay.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, I just want you
I
to
see
be
that
okay.
it is I see your cameraman having this, make all these statives, and he puts weights on the statives so they not fall on the stone. And then he went around, he made indirect lighting to the roof,
Yeah.
and he bring the
Right.
light to your face.
Oh, yeah.
And he all this work, so he must love his job.
He's
It
good
would
at
be-
it. He's good at it. Yeah, here, I'm going to show you Jason right now. There he is. He's really good at it. And you can see from all the equipment with the lighting, I showed you the still shot, the whole setup around my fastening bench. That takes him over an hour to set that up, just to get it all ready for me to begin to do the work. So he and I will...
admire the camera people, you know.
Yeah.
When they have passion in their jobs, when they really want to make a good lighting and just not just doing the job and so on. And then it's a lot of material. It's like a war zone, and they have to put all this stative up and make sure they don't fall, and the lights, the cables. Then he controls the sound, you know.
Oh, he's totally good at that. And plus, he's also helping me stage. Like we're doing some what we call Hollywood shots. So we're staging some of the shots so that it's focused, because you don't need to run the camera full time on what I'm doing, because that, you know, I've got like, I don't know how many, over 20 hours in this big sapphire so far, because I'm taking my time, and the time that it takes is also the weight that I'm saving you, right? I'm not rushing the stone, plus I'm also doing a slow process of removing it.
Yeah.
So, but the bottom line is, when we know we have a certain clip we want to add, then we do what we call a Hollywood shot. So we stage that process prior. That part, like, well, here I am at polishing it, and then he'll do a close-up, and then he'll do a far away. So we're doing quite a lot of Hollywood clicks just for your documentary.
And tell him to make some time lapses.
That we need to talk. Well, he said to me, we talked about it. I tried to set up my Nikon camera for time lapse, but I had a hard time arranging it. He says the way to do it would be in the editing room. You take all the video work that we've done, and an editor can clip different segments into a time lapse process.
Oh, okay.
Because to run a camera like running a camera like a flower growing, it doesn't quite work that way with cutting a stone. So it could be done better in the editing room. Am I right, Jason? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's saying yeah. The editor, whoever you have edit it, can take the clips in by time sequence and then merge them all together into a time lapse process.
Or in the morning, 6 o'clock, outside of your office on the other side of the road with your very nice small master shop, and then let the sun rise and make a time lapse with all the cars go by and you walk into the office. Okay,
we'll work on that. I'll see if I can get my camera to do time lapse. It's supposed to, but I haven't figured it out yet.
Take a GoPro, take it to GoPro 10.
Well, that you can do, right, with a GoPro 10? Yeah, maybe we'll get one for that. We might be able to do that. I know Lawrence brought one with him, so maybe that might work. That might be the way to do it, which is better than my Nikon still camera.
Yeah, right.
So I think we're in great shape. We just got a last bit of clip. I'm gonna do a Hollywood shot, surprising myself how little lost weight we did in front of the scale, and then we'll do one last interview. Where it's at and how happy I am and all that, and then it's a wrap for this stone. So it's so cool. I think I hope we create history, because a lot of people don't take the time to document their special profession, who at the end of the day is unique in this world. And I think it's so common because they do it every day, and then they don't have it documented. Right. So it's beautiful. I think it's been beautiful, everything you and I've done together, or all the stones that I've done for you. It's history, you know. They're all major. And Lawrence and I were talking about wanting to enter another stone. You know, I entered the Bezoatite in the objets, and it didn't win. But we're thinking we might want to enter the big shield-shaped Putertite into the cutting edge, you know, into the Spectrum Awards. So I don't know where is that stone in Switzerland, or where is it? Do you know? It's definitively on the planet Earth. Yeah, well, I know that. Well, I think Lawrence will figure it out. He's good at that, right? He'll make it happen. Yeah. So I'll talk to Lawrence, and he and I will try to focus on, because I think the Putertite is such a rare stone, and when I enter the stone, I will also do a write-up on how rare putritite is and how rare this particular putritite is. And the largest one at the Smithsonian's 12 carats and pale pink, and this one's 27 carats and cranberry red. So it's definitely a world-class stone that hasn't seen the light of day yet. So I think
it's a world record. A world record stone.
It is a world record. There's nothing else like it.
And the only one in its kind with the color.
Exactly, and nobody's ever going to see another one like that, ever.
It started with a very big stone, hundreds of carats.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we got quite a few stones out of it, so it was nice. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So one day everything will be together in one collection.
I can't wait.
And
your museum.
Yeah.
I can't wait for your museum, and then your documentary. Right? You're doing a life documentary, right? That's gonna be on one of the TV channels, hopefully.
You know, I'm like a painter. I'm painting and making, and I don't thinking about whether it will be successful in a gallery and sell. At the end, it will be difficult to give it away like a baby, and it will find its place. But you know, I don't have a grand plan because I cannot envision to give it away. But I'm taking my time to document all these different things with you, with others, and here to bring it all together in a nice documented database,
right.
and each database and so on. And then at the end of the day, you need somebody with a vision outside of the box, not me. Otherwise, everything is too autobiography, too much. And then somebody has an outside vision, and he will go through it, you know. And he will see all this work we have put in, and he will go and eat up his way through it and make something from the perspective of art, and which reflects things that might be interesting beside the autobiographic effect and so on, which we have to be always very careful, you know.
Sure.
And eventually we'll see part of my work that I did the last 30 years.
It's amazing.
And before it's all gone, better go and visit a few stations of it, bring it in, you know, with the people I love, like you, with the people I met, all these maestros all over the world, and all the different minds and all different adventures, and meeting these different cultures, people all over the globe, you know, from to every continent in all different settings, and then we experience together, we meet characters and so on. And then somebody has to come and say, okay, I see the totality of it, I see what happened, and there's so much work in it, and now we're gonna make this out of it, you know.
Right.
And I let it happen. Maybe never happen something. You can push yourself through and say it's important for the world.
But I think with all the raw footage you have, a good producer could put together a great series of documentary shows, for sure.
Yes. Yeah. So 2 guys from California, documentarists, are coming in August and make with me a world tour. They come filming me here in Bangkok, wherever they want, me diving with my family in my farm and here, and then they want to go Switzerland climbing, taking rock crystals out from my PhD work when I worked high in the mountains, and then they go with me, we're digging out a dinosaur in Wyoming, they're waiting for us, and they're finishing up with one of the very famous dinosaur excavation guys, you know.
Wow.
And Kirby Sieber, and in Wyoming, and then from there we are going to the Barrier Reef in Australia, diving and reproducing the effects of climate change, what's happening today with foraminifers on the water.
With the water temperature changing, right. The impact
and
on the coral reefs.
And all the very small animals, how they change right now, in comparing to 100 million years ago, with all the stuff I have in amber, where there was another climate change crisis, even at a higher magnitude than now, and we're comparing whether it's reproduces something 100 million years ago. And then we're making this discovery, we're going to different people and here and put ourselves into extreme situations, from the high mountains in Switzerland, underwater in the Barrier Reef, and with all these experts and people, and we add this to it, and then we bring it all together. Let's see. And so
well, that's exciting. Well, we're collecting some great video footage here. I mean, this part of the Zoom call is being recorded beside. I'm recording it in the computer, but he's also shooting you on the screen right now and me sideways. And so this is the completion. We have finalized and finished the Madagascar natural big 49.57 carat, I think I said. I'll put it back on the scale. We're going to do that. And then we're going to do a final wrap up in front of the computer and then in front of his screen. And it's been great to talk to you, and it's been a lot of fun working on this stone. A challenge, but truly an amazing stone. This is the third stone I've cut over 40 carats in sapphire. So number 3.
Okay.
So now you don't see that many over 40 carats. So
that's right.
So this is number 3 over 40 carats for me. So this is quite an accolade because you just don't see that many.
It started over 50.
Yeah, my
and
pleasure.
I'm so happy that now we have another witness that brings our friendship together.
Yes, of course.
The new 49 carat sapphire.
Yes.
Another miracle of this world.
Right.
Thanks God.
Another great stone. It's really impressive. I can't wait for you to see it.